Great. Hello, everybody. My name is Gabriella Boulos, and I'm from the Council of Canadian Innovators. Very excited to be here with you all today. For those who are joining online as well, great to see you all here. I am the Education Program Manager at CCI. So if you do quite like the Innovation and Governance Program, what you hear today, and applying, getting accepted to the program, you'll be hearing quite a lot from me as I am the main contact for the program. So I'm sure we'll get to know each other a little bit better if you do take part in our program. A little bit about who we are first. So the Council of Canadian Innovators, if you haven't heard of us before, we are a business council that helps high-growth Canadian tech companies to grow and scale up globally. So we do like to work with a lot of tech leaders and public policy leaders to really grow the innovation space sector in Canada. That's the real main goal for the Council of Canadian Innovators. Another thing that we do is help high-growth firms find qualified directors for their board. So about 2 years ago, we got a couple of requests from our members asking us for referrals or suggestions that they might, or that we might have for them to sit, for individuals that might sit on their corporate boards. And we put together a roster, a list of individuals from our ecosystem and from the individuals in our pool. And what we realized quite quickly after putting together this list, it was quite a short list. And quite a diversity lacking list. You know, we come from Canada, obviously one of the diverse countries in the world. So for us, when we saw the list that we had put together, it was quite a lack of. So what we really thought was there's clearly some sort of a gap in the market. There's something that's missing in terms of trying to provide training for individuals that might want to sit on a board one day, and even for those who do sit on a board one day. Or who do sit on a board in general might not have the training that they need to in the position that they're in. And for individuals who might be interested in general sense about the intangible economy, I want a foundational knowledge for themselves. This is the type of training we thought, you know, there seems to be a bit of a gap in the market. Clearly, it might be something interesting for us to provide some education training for it. And that's where the birth of the Innovation Governance Program kind of came about. So I created the Innovation Governance Program. Really, it was 3 reasons, as I mentioned. It was really the supply shortage that we found when we looked at our ecosystem for the lack of highly qualified individuals that might be able to sit on a board. The second is to provide training for the intangible economy for individuals who are currently sitting on a board or hopefully one day are trying to sit on a Canadian tech board or a board in general outside of the tech sector. And then thirdly is capacity and connection building. The main reason, or one of the main reasons I should say, that we really created the program was to create a network and a community feeling for individuals who are taking our program. You'll find that as I speak to a little bit more later on, but we really wanted to find a community base for them, similar to kind of how you have at Civic Tech. It's to build that community and to build that capacity across Canada, and that's really where the creation of the GP kind of came about. So I'll speak to you a little bit about the program. So we're only 2 years into the program now. We're entering into our 3rd year of offering the program. And so far, we've trained over 800 alumni coast to coast, which we're very, very proud of ourselves for in that sense. So we've really been able to tap individuals in every province of Canada, not all territories yet, but hopefully we'll be able to say we've been all across Canada soon enough. Like I mentioned, we also are really trying to create a network of community of governance experts across Canada. And outside of the program that we do offer with the 3 levels that we offer, I'll speak to that in a second, it's providing opportunities to connect with one another through social events, networking opportunities, additional learning events that we like to offer. So really trying to create that group of experts for everybody. And it's providing that tangible connection to Canada's intangible economy companies. A little bit about us. So IGP as a whole, it is a 3-course specialization program, and at the end of these 3 levels that you take with us, you're going to end up with a microtech after the completion of all 3. And each one of the levels that we have builds on one another, but includes different types of topics throughout. So our first level kind of speaks to IP, we have data commercialization, cybersecurity. Second level, we kind of going a little bit more on what that foundational base is, where we include conversations about talent, commercialization, AI, and financing at different levels of a company, from like Series A to IPO. And then the third level is where we call it the crunchy level of our program, where we really try to go in depth on topics like legal, like directors, legal practice, mergers and acquisitions, IPO, and all the kind of accounting that comes with all of that. So our program is offered 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring, and we offer all 3 levels throughout these seasons, just so that if an individual wants to take part in the program, they can do the entire program within less than a year. So from fall to spring, you can have the full member credit at the end of the time. And each one of the levels is only 6 weeks. We really designed it to be easy to consume, not too strenuous on individuals that are taking part in the program. We do know that a lot of the types of people that would like to take part in our program are quite busy and a lot going on. So we've tried to make it as easy to consume and user-friendly as possible. So it's 6 weeks for each level, and it's 2 live sessions that you're joining us for each week. So 11 sessions in total for each level. And it's an hour of live session that you're joining us to each single week from 12 to 1 Eastern time. And then outside of the live sessions that we also have accountability groups. So we pair you off into smaller subgroups in your cohort where you get to connect with individuals from across Canada at different levels of tenure. So you might have an individual that has 5 to 10 years of experience on a board. You might have some that don't have any. You might have some that are just starting out in their nonprofit type of world. And you might have some that are not interested to ever sit on a board, but are working with individuals and companies that obviously have a board of directors and are interested in learning the foundational knowledge that they work with. So really a group that we try to mix and match so that you can learn from experiences across the board. In each single one of your levels. So in each single level that you take, you'll be with a different accountability group. So you're always, switching it up and getting to meet people from across. So it's a little bit about the format and a little bit about the levels themselves. We're very fortunate to work with amazing partners in our program, and it's what makes our program a little bit different compared to other ones that you might see. We're able to be quite agile with the content that we place into our programs because each one of our content partners, for example, Deloitte or IAC, runs one of the weeks that they're in charge of. So, for example, IAC, the Innovation Asset Collective, obviously will come in and speak to IP and governance as it's their expertise and it's their specialty. And they bring in their expert speakers or guest speakers that they'd like, or lead instructors that are going to be leading the sessions for their week. Another week might be Sakura on cybersecurity. It's their specialty. They come in, they bring expert speakers or lead instructors that come in and speak to their week of specialty. So we really have great lead instructors from different companies and organizations that are coming and leading and instructing our course. And that's what makes it quite agile, because with each iteration of the cohorts we've had, we've been able to take feedback from our previous cohort and previous learners and update it for our next cohort to come. So it's always changing, continuing to add in content for what's going around in our current ecosystem and environment. For example, like Indigo, when they had that cyber crash, spring, we're able to embed it straight into our learning, and it was a case study that we got to apply real time as it was happening. So a little bit about our business partners on that end. And we also have great community partners that we work with, and these are really just individuals or organizations that we work with that try to help us with our mandate for our program, which is to really support individuals from underrepresented Canadian, which are usually traditionally underrepresented in Canadian boardrooms, which includes women, Aboriginal peoples, racialized groups, people with disabilities, and people from the LGBTQ+ community. So we really appreciate our community partners because they come take part in our program, or we find that their member base is quite intuitive to the program that we offer, and then they'll join us for it. So yeah, we do with this great organizations on that end. And our main goal for 2023 is to continue to grow our community partners and to continue to build a diverse alumni group for our program. And then we have really great expert instructors that come in and resources that we provide. So from the start of level 1, taking our program, we provided quite a thick textbook from one of our instructors from level 3 that was written. It's Director Duties in Canada 7th edition that you take with you throughout all 3 levels. And you find great readings embedded throughout levels 1, 2, and 3 on content on the book itself. But outside of the resource that we provide, we also embed great articles that are relevant to the specific topic that week. So we kind of have dual resources for most of our weeks. And then we have great instructors that come in and join us for each one of our weeks. Level 1, we end off with a great keynote between Leah Lawrence and Jim Seeley, which is quite a heavy hitter, and most individuals are quite interested in joining us in. And just great representatives from all of our amazing partners that bring in their lead instructors for us. We have quite a dynamic group of types of sessions that we do offer as well. So across all of the levels, we embed case studies for each single one of our levels, and within each single week. Most of the feedback that we've gotten from a lot of the alumni that we had is it's one of their favorite elements of the program is to apply the learning that we've gotten that week to a case study on something practical they can apply for the week of. So we've embedded case studies throughout all of our programs, throughout all of our levels. And we do have panel style sessions, learning style sessions where it's more of a come and get. And we do have style where it's also breakout groups where you get to connect with your accountability groups across. So we really try to make sure it's a dynamic type of learning experience. You're not doing the same thing every single week, and you're not hearing from the same person every single week. So you might be thinking, why should you take the Innovation Governance Program? And I'd say there's 3 main reasons in my mind, at least. One is the alumni network that I've kind of mentioned, that you're building here, taking part in the program. So automatically, if you're only taking even level 1 of the program, you are placed into a roster for our board member advisory program and placed into your communications for any events that we offer across Canada. So even if you've just taken one of the levels that we offer, you're still always invited to take part in networking events or learning sessions or additional programming that we have outside of the 3 levels. And that leads to number 2, access to additional thought leadership workshops and events. We just had our very first Innovation Governance Summit this past June, which was quite amazing. We got to host 120 of alumni from across Canada to come in for our first in-person summit, which was quite exciting for us as our program is online usually. And got to connect with individuals from across Canada face-to-face and led a couple of workshops that we had that day of. And we also try to provide opportunities for just networking, casually getting to meet individuals from different areas in Canada. We just hosted our first one in April in Halifax, which was quite a hit. We were quite excited. Obviously, the main chunk of our alumni is from Ontario. We have about 65% of our alumni from Ontario, so we do always try to host Ontario-based events. But we also are trying to host one out this fall in Vancouver. So really trying to connect everybody as much as possible for alumni across Canada on that sense. And then, as I mentioned, after level 1, you're automatically placed into our board member advisory program. And this program is a referral-based program that we offer. So it kind of speaks to the point that we made in the beginning. Opportunities for you to find board positions, or if you'd like to start serving on a board, this is where you'd find most positions. We'll refer you based on our CCI members or our IT partners on positions that they send to us. And these could be nonprofit-based positions, private positions, usually more for starter level board positions. But we refer you based on your background, career-wise, and your experience and what they're looking for. And we cater to a list of about 10 to 15 referrals that we provide them from our alumni list. And from there, you get selected for the position based on their criteria. So you're really part of a great pipeline on that sense. Program cost, always something that's important for most individuals. So the cost of the program is $2,500 per level, but we do try to make it as accessible as possible to everybody who's applying. So we do provide a limited number of subsidies for individuals who would require the financial assistance. So there's part of the application process where you can identify if you'd like to be part of or request financial subsidies, and we examine from there with a limited number that we do have who gets them. But before even applying for that, we do also ask if you could check with your professional development funds if they're available to you to use those before requesting it for those who may need it a little bit more regarding the limited subsidies. We do also offer a government preferred rate. We worked with ISED for their innovation tech advisors that they had, and ended up working with them because quite a few wanted to take our program because of the individuals and companies that they work with. It was quite an interest for them to take the program and get some good foundational knowledge. So we set up a government preferred rate, $1,500 instead of $2,500. So it's $1,000 off of the program cost to try to accommodate with their professional development budget better. So hopefully that's of assistance for most individuals. And if you're applying with a group in your organization or with a group of, let's say, colleagues that would like to take part in the program, we do also offer preferred rates for groups that are coming to take the program, because we've had quite a few that come with colleagues or friends that they'd like to take part with. So for 3 or more, we always try to accommodate and provide preferred rating for that. So just as a note, we always try to ensure that every single person taking part in our program or applying for our program tries to get accepted. So even if we don't have space for the cohort that's coming up, the fall cohort, we always try to accommodate and prefer and add preferred acceptance for the next cohort that we have available. So we really try to accommodate as much as possible when it comes to individuals applying for a program in that sense. Some key upcoming dates for our fall cohort coming up. Our application deadline is September 8th. So we still have about 3 weeks, 3.5 till our application deadline. And our cohort's going to be running between October and November for our fall sessions. It's starting October 10th and ending around mid-November for our level 1 cohort. And that is the end of my presentation. Really, I would love to answer any questions if anybody has any questions, both online or in person. And maybe online, if you want to pop it into the chat, or I guess just say it, would be really cool. Yeah. So, can you help me with
We like to bounce back and forth between sort of online and offline.
okay, no.
So thanks, Ed. If you've got a question online, you can just add a cue to the chat, and then we'll bounce back. Sort of question in the room, question online. Are there any? Doesn't look like there's questions online, so let's. Like I said, if you're online, want to ask a question, throw a cue in the chat. But we'll take a question from the room.
Q.
This, that everyone has its own expertise within itself. Like, so I guess like the question is like, well, my background is economics, say. So like, what does a good org actually look like? Is it just a series of just everyone somehow a generalist expert, or is it that typically a case of, because again, each one of those situations you're talking about, decades of knowledge to really be an understanding any of those domains.
I think for our program, we're not trying to make you an expert in it. We're trying to give you the foundational knowledge for every single piece of what a board director would think would have a good knowledge on. So obviously for our week on cybersecurity, we're not going to leave 1 week understanding everything you may need to know regarding cybersecurity, but it gives you the foundational knowledge that if you're in a room with a board of directors, you're aware of what the conversation is. There's a situation happening. You're aware of how to handle certain situations as a board member. So our main mantra is not to create experts, but to give you all foundational knowledge on a variety of, as you said, there are many topics that you can hit for a board of director. And even with our 3 levels, there's excess, topics that we can still be touching. And we do offer them sometimes as one-off sessions to our alumni group for additional learning on topics that maybe we couldn't even add into our 3 levels. But yes, you're not going to be an expert leaving these 3 levels, but you're going to have the foundational knowledge you need to sit on these boards and to be a valued member on these boards. But your own career background is what provides you that specialty as well. Yeah.
There was a question online from HS.
Hey there. I hope you can hear me fine. So my name is Hasib, and I work at the Toronto Stock Exchange. So I was just wondering, you mentioned that there is a pipeline for prospective directors within the CCI's Board of Member Advisory Program. What type of organizations is this pipeline typically for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, as of now, we only allow access of our pipeline to our CCI members and our IGP partners. So for example, even like one of our partners, SEDC, has obviously companies of their own that they work with. So it would be companies that they work with as well that would have access to our alumni group. They don't have full access. None of the organizations will ever have full access of our alumni group, but rather they they will provide us a posting or some sort of a role that they're looking for specifically on a corporate director. We provide a list of about 10 to 15 names from there. So it would be CCI members and our IGP partners that only have access to this alumni group, though. Yeah, good question.
Great. Some more questions. We've got one second people there.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. So I guess I have two questions, and one is a bit small, so I'll just shoot that first. But it's basically to do with the motivation. So you had three motivations there, and I think one of them was about the intangible economy in Canada, and I was kind of like wondering if you could talk more about that because I wasn't getting it too much. And then the second one is I'm wondering if you could also say something about the community partners bit. So where do they kind of like come? What's the role and time?
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear the second.
Oh, okay. So I guess I'd like you to talk about two things if you can. So one is the motivation about the intangible economy and what that means. The second one is about the community partners that you mentioned and what the relationship is. So what's your relationship to them? And what are they sort of like getting at it?
Okay, I totally get that. Okay, perfect. I'll answer the community partner one actually first. So really it's just to be good ecosystem partners. You know, our community partners are around the same realm. So like when we get on board Beer Tech, we're in the same space. So for us, it's really working with them to provide access to our program. We do also provide them specific seats for some of their members to take part in our cohorts, but also just to make others aware in the ecosystem about the program. A lot of questions that we would get for some of the information sessions that we would post online is, I've never heard of this program, but this is a great program. Why are you guys not like more well known? We're trying, and we're doing that through our partners and through hopefully our community partners. So really trying to reach out and work with individuals in our ecosystem on that. Yeah, so that would be really the main piece for our community partners. And then for the intangible economy, really the main motivation from it came from individuals not having a good background or foundational background on the intangible economy as a whole. So like pieces like intellectual property, cyber, or data and governance. Like there's not that foundational knowledge for the intangible economy, but yet, I mean, look at most of the companies that you see today, obviously there's those elements throughout. So it's just building that foundational knowledge on intangibles that you'll see in most companies today. You know, what company nowadays isn't a tech company-based company? Even if it's not in the sector of, it's elements of tech embedded into it, which has those intangible pieces. Yeah. Good question.
So the thesis for this program seems like it stemmed from listening to the companies that you support, and they articulated there's this gap in certain town where we're just seeing like one monoculture of a representation of directors. And I'm curious, in continuing with this program and continuing to work with these organizations, are there certain types of experiences that these companies are looking to see in their directors? So whether that's identity, lived experiences, particular industries they're trying to optimize for. I'm interested just to learn if there's anything.
Yeah. I'd say it's a variety, honestly. Our members are all over the board when it comes to like the types of companies that we work with. Most of the positions that we have so far or that we've had in the past are mostly nonprofit based. Some of them are private, but I'd say more in the nonprofit zone right now. So a lot of these positions, you're looking for individuals, obviously, that they don't technically need to have a background as a corporate director because it is maybe they're one of their first positions that they're sitting on their board. Obviously, for the private, they would be looking for an individual that has maybe 5 or so years of experience. Just because at that point, they'd be looking for somebody that has a little bit more experience to sit on their board to advise them. And if they're looking for private at that point, when you're looking at an independent director at that point, it's somebody who has a bit of experience or specialties in a specific area. But I would say for the nonprofit realm, it really is all over the board. They don't need to technically have it for some of the positions that we've seen. It might be their first entry into sitting on a board, but yeah, and that is usually their path to one day hopefully sit on a private board or a public board. Is starting with the nonprofits and working your way through. Yeah. Any other questions?
So I guess the question is, so in the meetings that we have. That's like the lectures, I guess.
Yeah.
And also I wonder what are the assessments like to determine whether you pass that level or not.
Yeah, that's great. Great question. So for the two live sessions that we have, like I mentioned, it's a variety of learning styles that we try to embed. So some sessions might be panel discussions. Other ones will have case studies embedded throughout. So you'll break out into smaller groups to discuss or break down a specific case study that we brought forth. Another style, it might be a little bit more come and get, where it's like a PowerPoint presentation. You're coming and sitting and listening to learn a little bit about it. But we try to make sure that each one of the live sessions that we offer is different. So you're not doing the exact same thing for every single session. And it breaks it up a little bit for you so that you're learning in different styles of presentation. Yeah, so you'll get a variety on that end. And your second question was assessments. Yeah, so for our program right now, we don't offer any testing or assessments for it. The only assessments that we offer or that we really request from our learners, just because a lot of our feedback is do not embed testing. We really want this as more of our own type of a learning experience at their own pace, which we completely understand, is to identify if you've understood what the key points are for that week, because that's the main piece for us. If you really understood what our main takeaways for the week's learning are, is that we assign you with your accountability groups that you get broken into. So your smaller group, at the end of the live sessions, you'll find a time with your group to meet every single week outside of the class for about 30 minutes. And from there, you connect about the learnings for the week, and you identify 3 key learnings that you picked up on the week and what really struck out to you. And then you'll post them onto Slack as your key 3 takeaways. Yeah, so it's more of like a group work, identifying, what are the main key takeaways that you summarized for the week. Yeah, and we start off each next week with one of the groups presenting their Q&A on it. Yeah. Any other questions?
Are there any other questions online? You can just pop a Q in the chat.
Good questions though. And if you have any other questions that maybe pop into your mind a little later on, or if you want to do your own, sleuthing online about us, please feel free to shoot me an email afterwards if you do have any other questions and maybe want to talk a little bit more about it. I'm more than happy to do so and kind of break down any questions you might have about the program. And hopefully get to see some of your pieces in this fall cohort.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
So you kind of the companies came to you and said, hey, the skill gaps. I'm curious, through this program, you're 3 years in, you said? 2 years, yeah. What makes a good board, right? For, like, what are the characteristics? What are the skill sets? What are the dynamics? That make a board good?
I'll say from most of our experience, listening to even experts that come in, it's they try to avoid the gotcha person. So it'll be like the person who has taken maybe a program like IGP or like ICD, one of the larger programs that offer governance training, fresh off one of these programs, joins the board and identifies everything that might be wrong that's happening all in one go, saying, oh, you did this wrong or you did this wrong. Really, it's for those who might not even have the experience, you're coming into a dynamic for a company and really trying to help them. So first of all, listening into the board, listening what's happening with the dynamic, if certain things are working for a board, what are areas that are more gray areas for a company, let's say, instead of coming at them with a list of everything that you've just learned from a program, trying to come at them with a gotcha personality. So it's really more of collaborating with one another on a board is what we've really heard from our experts say. Trying to be more of a listener and engaging with what's needed at certain times. You don't need to speak at every single board meeting if it's not something that's useful to say, or if it's not something that's regarding you and your specialty. So it's really, they say, aiding when you can aid for things that you specialize in or something that or have had experience with, but not just speaking for the sake of speaking, or not just piping an opinion just to pipe an opinion is what we've really heard from a lot of panelists that have been on boards for quite a few years hit us with. Yeah, that's one of the key identifiers they've let us know.